the wisdom flow. Revenue ramp, let's go, let's go. Let's go, let's go.
Hey Avinash, thanks so much for joining in, and again, great to have you on the show. Uh, so for even starters, would love to know more about you. What was your journey? How did you become a seller? What was your schooling and all, and how did you came to this niche, which is a seller, right? How did you recognize that you want to be a seller?
Yeah. First of all, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm coming in a little. I think we're supposed to have a brief chat before this, but we couldn't get around, so coming in a bit blindsided. But yeah, I mean, so with some background, I guess I started my career in edtech sales right out of college, and this was during this whole edtech boom and stuff. So how I was there for a few months, and I think the high pressure environment or the kind of work culture in general led me to know that definitely consumer sales in India, edtech, all that is not for me. So I had to transition, and I then got into B2B. And right off, like the first company that I joined the inside sales team. I was the second sales hire there, and I took on various roles, right, from everything, including sales, a bit of product, customer experience, support. I was handling a lot. I was reporting to the founders directly, and over that time, we helped. I was able to help like build playbooks for many like cross-functional processes, right? And I think specifically that core experience, overall experience for like I think 2.5 years, close to 3 years, is why I've been able to consistently sort of be part of teams that have been able to achieve 3x sort of like revenue growth, right, year on year. So yeah, interestingly, in this whole thing, I became a founder purely by accident. So quick backstory: I've been involved in competitive sailing as a sport from like an early age, and I was able to represent the country and yeah, be part of it at a decent level. So the business that we ran was around curating learning as well as like leisure-based experiences for people out at sea. So yeah, all in all, I don't think the business panned out at the level that we would have wanted to, but it taught me a few things in terms of running a new business, managing vendors or people, understanding markets, etc. Right? Yeah, and right after that, back to sales again. Bigger companies this time, Series A company and more of a seed stage company. More specific in terms of the role, I've been more of a closer since then, not as much of a generalist. But yeah, it's been fun.
So, how did you realize that sales is something that you should do? Whether there was an instance in your childhood of something, or you were always fascinated by selling?
No chance. I don't think anybody has that kind of a story. I feel like it's not one of those professions which is exciting or like you want to be it. It's not like becoming an astronaut or a doctor of sorts, right? I think in my case, I don't know, I was just involved in getting stuff done, I guess, like whether it was organizing some party or being part of some cultural committee or doing something or the other, right, in school, college, roles which involve getting people together and talking and things, right? So yeah, and I didn't know that could lead to a career at all. And somehow I realized there's something called sales. There are these companies hiring, so I thought let's give it a shot. So honestly, that's how it went, and yeah, it's been okay.
No, that's great. I think yeah, people do find their kind of passion, right? Or what they fit into. I think after several years of working, uh, same goes for me actually, right? I started as a product manager, and then probably after some time I realized, okay, yeah, product, and actually found like building something makes more sense for me, right? Yeah, so that's how I think people actually learn, and I totally agree there. So
Yeah.
how do you while you have pitched or sold a lot of products in different categories in different uh, industries, right? I think you have worked in tech, B2B, SaaS, and other areas, right? So how do you compare the sales in different uh, areas? Is it same, or is it a little difficult, or it is a little different, or what are the nuances there?
Yeah, no, it can be very different depending on, I think that instead of keeping it very general, like it boils down to who your target audience is and what problem you're solving for them, right? Like that's the essence of it. So in something like, say, EdTech education in India, it's very different from a stance of you're dealing with like parents. You have to take probably like more of a emotional approach, focus on the value that can come out of it through like whatever product, right? Whether it's a tablet or any kind of other education material. With B2B, again, if you keep like, and this is like bang opposite from B2C India to B2B, like US target audience, which is what my primary niche has been, I guess. There it's more of taking a structured approach to the way you sell. It's not just about putting on a great demo and just selling a product that can work with like small sort of deals, I guess. But you've got to convince multiple stakeholders at different levels as to what problem you're solving, how the value is. Even the value can be different from, say, a sales manager to a CEO, the way they look at it. So you have to be able to like put together that whole story and make it relatable for them. So it really depends on target audience, also like sales cycles, deal sizes, etc. So
So in your experience, like what makes selling SaaS solutions to businesses unique compared to other type of sales?
I mean, everything is different, right? I don't think there's anything specific, but everything is different in its own sense. I feel it comes to selling SaaS specifically. Again, it depends on the target audience. I've worked across markets. I can tell you that some markets are easier to crack than others. So in that, I can give you some nuances. For example, in the US, people are more likely to buy technology for problems that they have. And I'm not talking about being like a big business owner. You can be a small business owner. You want to manage something. You're open to just spending $20 on something and automating it per month. So there it's easier to get a foot in the door, but to be of actual value, you have to be able to solve that problem for them long term, right? A year, 2 years, 5 years, because even they don't want to keep changing products in that sense. India, you probably want to focus on the price a bit more because of the way the markets are. In Europe, I'd say they care a lot about stuff like security, compliance, because of the way the countries are structured as well and things. So the uniqueness, I think, again, depends on who you're selling to, which market they are in and their environment. Yeah, so that's what it boils down to, I think, for me.
And like, how do you tailor your approach when pitching like complex softwares to like different stakeholders in the same company, or like different stakeholders in different companies? Like what is your approach for tailoring your pitch?
Yeah. So approach can vary, but the essence of it is always knowing what a specific person in the company cares about the most. So it's simple to say that a CEO will always care about ROI, right? So if you're spending X dollars on a software, it should give them like whatever, like 3x return or 5x return in terms of money. End of the day, you have to correlate whatever your product does to helping them make more money or save money. And that's what like the C-suite or the CEO founding team would always care about the most. It's definitely not the case when you go down the ladder, say like someone like a VP of sales, sales manager, etc. Right? They may be looking at something very specific, right? Say they have a current software that doesn't deal with some CRM like HubSpot. So they just want to get that done. And they know that this will help their reps be more productive. Very simple, right? And going up the ladder, maybe it could be a little more nuanced problem, like say, like a sales leader who would want to have visibility across the board. So all this HubSpot, that is fine. But they just want to make sure that managing their reports or doing some kind of analysis on it becomes super easy for their internal reports or for their enablement team or whoever. Right. So problem statements depend role by role, but also like seniority by seniority. But there are some rules that you can put in place, like how I mentioned the ROI bit for CEOs, which is almost always the case. Managers would want like some kind of report. So depending on the product, you can sort of generalize and say like this is what this person wants. But the nuances of it, you'll have to dig deep and get into understanding as to why they want it. Right? That's quite important. Yeah.
No. So you have closed multiple deals, right? And would love to know a story of a challenging deal you closed. Like what obstacles did you face, and how did you like overcome them?
Right. Hmm. I'm trying to think of which one is worth telling. Hmm.
Any story, you can pick any story from recent times or like when you even got started.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can tell you like something from a year back. I don't know if it's the most fun story, but it just came in my mind, I guess. So this is also a good learning for anyone who's transitioning from sales to more like mid-market, right? Because the way you go about it is extremely different. What works here will probably never work in mid-market. So I didn't know all this. I was closing deals of a certain size, and there were certain processes that worked, which was doing a killer demo or following up, like basic stuff, right? Like that you'd read about. So this was one of those deals that like the quarter was riding on it, not just for me, but for the company as well, because it was like huge. Potentially could have been one of the bigger deals the company has closed. So generally it was too many challenges, but everything was a challenge, right? From a standpoint of getting them to test out the product for an initial POC, or even checking if they had the right stakeholders on board on the trial, or showing value across those target titles, right? Like I told you. So there were numerous challenges along those lines, which extended the deal cycle to probably like two months beyond what we would have liked. But it was a learning in itself. I think the good thing is we ended up closing that deal towards the end, but we also, there were a lot of mistakes made along the way in terms of, from our standpoint, like right from how much we helped them to get the trial in place, not checking if they were the right stakeholders. So we realized we had some ICs on board who just wanted to test out, right? And you wouldn't want to give them too much luxury on the product, because end of the day, somebody else is making the decision. So this trial extension, in short, went from, oh, we'll do it for 2 weeks to like 2 months. And every time it was like few more days, and us not exactly knowing where to put the foot down and you really like take control of that whole situation. So yeah, right from that to
So this
some
was
problems
like
we
an
had on the, yeah, go ahead.
so no, finish your thought first.
Yeah. Where was that? Yeah, so there were a lot of mistakes, or like amateur sort of uh, amateurish approaches we took at different points, right? And it was a good learning overall, I guess. I forgot I was going to say something, but kind of forgot. What is your question?
Yeah, so this was like Indian client or like a US client?
No, this was not Indian. This was American, US. Yeah, correct.
US. Okay.
Yeah.
So like when you got started, there's more sort of because if you are a seller who were selling in India, right, to Indian audience, and now you start selling to US, so there is an intimidation that happens, right? At least I have felt that intimidation in initial days, right? Like you get intimidated by what will happen if I start selling to US folks? How will I uh, talk to them? How will I basically understand their language or like be a part of their community, right? Because they are from the different world and we are from the different world. So how did you felt when you started selling into US, and how did you cope up, or how did you basically uh, uh, understood like what works and what doesn't?
hmm No, I agree. I think it is a big challenge. I think I can take an example of some founders that I've helped, like more on a consulting side, because they feel it's more of a struggle, right? In terms of just doing that 0 to 1. Some of the companies that I've worked at, I've already been part of a process where there is an inbound channel, there's outbound. My job has been to close deals. Fairly simple, right? Better, like luxury problems to have. Like when you're 0 to 1 and you're just setting up a product, you're figuring out who your audience is and you want to sell to the US for profitability reasons, it's super hard to crack those first few meetings, first few closures.
Right.
How do you even do that, right? Like that's a big thing. And I feel on that specific US GTM thing, I've been able to sort of bring in some value, I guess, for a couple of friends who run companies, small businesses. And I think, a lot of it boils down to how you guys, how a founder would want to structure it itself, right? Sort of having a very jugaad approach over here, or just going to some co-working spaces, reaching out to founders directly. All that won't work over there because you're new, right? But the fundamentals are still the same. As long as you have clarity on who your targets, who your ICP is, and where they spend time and money in terms of channels they're on, etc., it becomes much easier to get in front of people. I think ultimately it's just targeting the right channels and just being very candid in telling them that, hey, you're trying to figure out solving this problem, how to go about it. Just having a very candid approach, right? And not trying to tell, not trying to sell, not trying to put yourself out there saying that you have some world-class product with great technology, etc., right? So
Right.
from that standpoint, it's not that hard to generate meetings in this day and age. Also, what's been a huge game changer, I think, is thinking about where your customers would spend time and money in terms of communities they're part of, right? Because communities have
Mm.
that sense of trust about them. Ideally, if you're a company that has shared investors or you're part of like groups, etc., that's like a gold mine for your first like 100 customers or first 10 customers at least. But otherwise, there are a lot of like these micro Slack group for founders of Slack group for where salespeople hang out. Super cool communities where people actually help each other and not sell to each other, right? Most
Mhm.
communities, it's just out and out selling. There's no real value. Yeah, and there are these companies similar to TalkMate and things where there's like this mentor-mentee kind of approach. So you can put
Right.
yourself out there if you have some industry experience. You can put yourself out there, spend 30 minutes a day, 60 minutes a day just to help someone out, and that may lead to something. So just doing things like that has really worked wonders in terms of just generating meetings and letting people take a chance with you on doing a POC with you, right? This has worked much, much better than any out and out cold calling, out and out cold emailing, LinkedIn
Uh,
with no personalization. When you don't have a product, when you don't have that value, right? So always taking that approach, I've seen work really well and been able to replicate it. Yeah. Does that make sense? So, I mean, I think you have a similar phase, right? In terms of where you guys are.
right. No, absolutely. That's why I actually asked this question, like how, because in the past also I have felt this kind of thought process while I was basically going and chatting with the clients in US, right? Uh, so there was a part in me which was kind of intimidated while talking to them. So, but slowly and
Mm-hmm.
gradually, I basically learned the way of talking and basically understanding how I can provide value, right? Absolutely. I think you're right there. And there are good ways to generate leads as well as you suggested, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so like uh, now, so we have seen SaaS industry is actually constantly evolving, and with the new era of AI, right? Uh,
Mm.
how do sellers like you actually keep up or stay ahead of the curve, ensuring like you're delivering value to your clients? Like how do you basically keep up, and what tools, resources, or strategies do you use to basically stay ahead of the curve?
Mhm. interesting question. I can tell you more specifically from a SaaS Labs context, the most recent company I was part of, right? So in our case, we sold a solution which helped people calls and manage everything very effectively from a communication standpoint through SMS, through calls, etc. So the end user was a salesperson. I'm in sales as well. So very relatable in terms of what problem we solve and how we go about it. Right. So as a user, there would be, it's the way I work today is much different and much better than the way I worked like 5 years ago. For example, with simple like note takers, right? Game changer in terms of not having to take manual notes, bunch of things, right? So you have automated summaries, and that would be the main thing. But also in the way we like route meetings from SDRs to AEs to like onboarding, etc. Much more streamlined process we have in place thanks to some AI tools that we use. From a selling standpoint, the good thing is, I mean, the funny thing rather in the last like 1.5 years, I think a lot of people who don't even need AI to solve some kind of problem, they're like, hey, do you guys use AI? Like, how do you do it? And it didn't make any sense because, for example, if somebody has like on level 1 worth of problem, but you need like AI comes in only for the 10th level, they still want to know like, okay, what is AI and how do you use this? And it was easier to sell. I guess like when we launched our AI product, I felt it was easier to sell there because we were sort of early to the market and everyone was like, oh, you guys use AI, here's extra $20, right? Because it was just cool. But right now, I think we're gone back to that neutral phase wherein you have to, it just goes back to doing the basics, which is showing value for a specific problem statement. Yeah, showing actual value. Right? How you going to help me make money or save money, or how you going to help me solve this particular problem, whether it's voice quality or whether it's like taking done much better or streamlining handoff process from one person to another. These were all like problem statements we went after, but it's very specific to those things. And yeah.
So like I've also asked like what tools, what strategies, what resources do you go for to basically stay ahead of the curve? Any specific areas that you go, any tools that you basically have on your side, which basically helps you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, quite a few. For a start, it can be, for me, note takers have been the biggest game changer. I mean, I've been in E, right? So taking video meetings like quite a few times in a day, keeping track of things, having those notes going back into your CRM. So it's very structured in a place where you can review it, etc. Those are there. So one would be the note taker. The second would be, this is not specifically for me, but more for our team, like a sales dialer. So a power dialer is what it's called. So this is a system that can help you automate outbound calls as quickly as possible, right? So automates everything from automates a lot of manual work, uploading a list, curating it, putting it, cleaning it up, copying a number, pasting it, hitting dial, waiting for the ring to go through. All of these things can just be automated, right? With a power dialer, which will do that work. And it can also, like, say, automate a voicemail. Again, waste of time. If it's very repetitive, it can automate an SMS, say if somebody does not pick up and things like that. So this is a huge game changer. The next thing could be more on the note-taking thing, just to go a level deeper, right? We've seen that sales coaching, ramp up, all of these are like big problem statements, especially for fast-growing companies, right? They hire a lot of people and they don't want like a 2-month ramp, 3-month ramp. They want to reduce it as much as possible because essentially a company is losing money when a new hire is on ramp, right? So there are, so there are ways to do that by having like a call scoring mechanism, for example. So if somebody comes in, instead of telling them to go review like thousands of calls or join random meetings, an easy way to tell them that, hey, these are the top 5, these are the top bottom 5 kind of listen to for this particular thing. So you're talking about, say, like HubSpot or Salesforce, these are 2-3 things, right? So call scoring works really well. What else? I mean, yeah, there's some things, but if you have specific problem statements in mind, I can tell you what tools have worked, but this was more in a general level.
No,
Some
absolutely. I think I was more sort of asking on the general level how you keep up and how do you coach yourself and stay ahead of the curve, right? And you have answered
Right.
it correctly. What are the tools that you use in your day to day, right? So my last question, Avinash, would be like, what one piece of advice you would give to someone who's just starting out in B2B SaaS sales?
Yeah, you cut off a little bit. Did you say?
Yeah, so I'll just come again.
Yeah.
So what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone just starting out in B2B SaaS sales?
Yeah, I mean, this would be to just have a thick skin, I guess. It depends on which part of sales you're in also. Some parts involve a lot more rejection than others, but regardless, rejection is a big part of this role, right? And being process driven always like helps in the long run. So not caring too much about people going cold, people saying no. Sometimes there can be a lot of like abuse that's thrown your way because you're the face of the company, right? For an end user. They don't know much about the whole backstory of what mistake product had done or what mistake support has done in terms of the way they communicate. They just wanna like take that frustration on you if you're the person they're connecting with. So these things are fairly normal. It is easy for these kinds of things to affect your day uh, uh, initially when you start off, right? So that's like the biggest thing. The second thing is, yeah, process driven. Just to elaborate, I think there are a lot of different things you can do to solve your end goal, can be booking meetings or closing deals or upselling, cross selling. But having like some kind of structure to your process will help you understand on a broader level what's working, what's not. Because some things can happen by luck or some things can be like one-off sort of experiences. But the more structure you have, the chances are higher of knowing what you did leading to higher output in terms of anything positive or higher negative output in terms of something not working out, right? And that pinpoint you can only do if you have some kind of structure of that. Otherwise, you're going to think that, oh, this is what's helping me. And then you can go down a tangent which is not working at all and realizing it too late, right? So, yeah. And the process will also help you hit quota. So that's how you make money. I think you're on mute, by the way, or I can't hear you.
Yeah, I am sorry. I think the most important bit is the hitting the quota, right? And as you said, like uh, keeping up with the rejections, I think that is the most important thing in this job. So you're right. I've like heard this from multiple folks. I think everyone suggests that keep up with rejections. Don't take it to your heart because it is part of the game, right? And yeah,
Mhm.
I think thank you so much, Avinash, for sharing all your insights and experience with us. Uh, Again, would love to have you again on the show, and would love to learn more from you.